Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. At 60 kilometers from Islam, at the foot of the Berkane Mountains, we met in Berkane one of the pioneers of ecology in Morocco, Mr Najib Bachiri, founder of the association OKE. He has done so much for our country and still does. We are very happy to have among us a great man who is known nationally and internationally as well by his appreciated actions. So everybody please welcome Mr Bachiri. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt that the environment is the most important issue we should be focusing on, especially with all this climate change has been becoming stronger with every decade that goes by. The environment obviously doesn't hurt us so much now, but there will be a lot of effects and consequences in the coming years. So think about the next generation. Don't you want them to live as happy as us and our parents did? Don't you want them to experience the joy of being surrounded with millions of different species? But thankfully, we have some people that pour all their time to this issue and try their best to give us the happy life we want, such as Mr Bachiri. Created in 1993, this association was first born to denounce the open-air dump that was polluting downtown Berkane, with all the sanitary consequences that one imagines. Since then, a new controlled landfill has been built outside the city, and the association is continuing with its fight for respect for the environment, embracing it as a genuine integrated development approach. We must take man into account in our ecological approach. If we exclude man, we cannot protect the environment, emphasizing Mr Najib. So, Mr Bachiri, can you please tell us a little bit about your association?
I'm really pleased to be here for one reason. I have been detached totally from the school system for a long, long time, and I'm back to where I belong. I was a teacher, and I had some wonderful students that, in fact, were my source of knowledge, and I hope today that you will be my source of knowledge and inspiration, because I cannot survive without students. And second thing that has in fact really pleased me so much is when I got here, I talked to your supervisor, and he told me that you, as students, were collecting some money to really help another school in the field of the environment. And this is a wonderful behavior. This is very civilized behavior, and I would love to see you go on and do what you really believe in, so as to help people and as well to protect the environment. So my association, or the association I belong to, in fact, was one of the first ecological associations in Morocco. We founded the association in 1992, and I'm sure that some of you were not yet born at that time. And here I am with you. I'm growing old, and you are going to take my place and keep on going, traveling along, and into the future. So the association, in fact, was created in 1992, and the reason, behind the founding of the association was, of course, the environment. So at the time, Berkane, was having some very, very bad, environmental, situations. Like, for example, I don't know if you know exactly Berkane, but the landfill, the area where the city was really throwing the garbage, was in the Warmika. So my association, was born because of the garbage, because of dirt. So we had to fight to really free the city, from the garbage, from the landfill. And Berkane, because of our fight, the fight of the association, so we were the first city in Morocco to benefit, from a new control that was one of our really victories in the field of the environment. So this is just a brief description of the association, because we were born to protect the environment and we're still protecting the environment. And to work in the field of the environment is not something very easy. So sometimes you can lose your friends, some dear friends. I lost a lot of friends because they were trying to destroy the environment, and I was an obstacle. So I lost my friends. But I believe in what I was doing. I believed in protecting the environment. So working in the field of the environment is like fighting a civil war. The friend of today is not the friend of tomorrow. Can be your enemy, because you are really trying, you get into his own field of interest. So when you try to really block him from really getting his own benefits, his own interest, then he turns against you. And you become, one of the persona non grata. People don't like you. To make things really go very smooth, very, positive, what we are going to do, the environment is not something very limited. It's a large ocean. So I'm going to give you some time, think of any question you want, and then we can interact. So what you want to know, what you believe, and I'm going to react to that. So that really may help you. I was a teacher, and I never talked so much. I always gave freedom to my students to ask me before I tell them what I believe in. So this is just a warm-up, and if anyone has any question concerning the environment and climate change, then we can talk together, try to really analyze the situation in Morocco, and why not in the world. Because in the past, the environment was located in a certain area, very limited area. But now, with the global world, now we have become a global village. So what can really affect us here can affect another country somewhere in America or maybe in Africa. So we have become one. The environment now is one environment in the whole planet. So you have to think, act local, but think global. We cannot really think alone. We can't think alone. We cannot work only to protect Berkane. We have to act locally here, but with a global perspective, with a global vision, to really help other people that, we are impacting in fact. The environment, what we do here, moves, travels. If we do something here, then it will end up maybe in South Africa. And if people do something in South Africa, maybe it will end up here in Berkane. So we have to really think local with a global, beliefs, and with a global, concept of the whole environment.
Actually, well, I thank you very much for your beautiful presentation. Well, I have just one question. What are the main projects that you did here in Berkane to save the environment? What are the main projects?
Okay, we have in fact many projects. Like for example, the landfill you see outside in Berkane. So in fact that was the result of our fight. We had to fight a lot, to really have our own landfill control. Number two, when you go towards the bridge, just here in Berkane, the bridge, you have a forest, you have some storks. So thanks to the association, we protected that area. So we had to fight a lot because the municipality of Berkane sold the land. They wanted to build, a touristic complex there, but we intervened and we stopped them. And now it is one of the protected, areas in Berkane. So now that area, site is protected because, as you know, storks in Morocco, they have a special law. You cannot, for example, I give you an example. If a mosque, and too bad, sometimes you have a mosque and you have the minarets. So all the nests are on the minarets. You cannot take off or destroy the nest without asking permission, because the stork is one bird that is protected. There is a royal decree, a dahir, that you cannot touch, the storks. If a stork builds, its nest on a wall, so that wall is protected. So there is a law protecting, the stork, and it's very old, although it's one of the oldest laws here in Morocco that concerns, of course, you have palm trees, you have storks, and you have many other, species. So, some of our works, some of our projects, in fact, are in the rural areas. So if you go to Tafouat, for example, we built about 8 schools. As you know, you have what they call prefabriqué. It's a moving, there are some classrooms, but with a substance that is very dangerous, for students. It can cause, cancer, blood cancer. And we had with our Spanish partner, we put, down all the schools and we built new schools. So some of them are ecological, like if you go to the Maris, we built one of the first eco schools in Morocco. So solar energy, dripping system, everything, was collecting rain, also to collect, rain to irrigate, the garden, and also to clean the classrooms. So in education, and in the problem, sometimes you cannot, it's impossible just to go to someone and say, don't do this, because if you do it, you are going to destroy the environment. You have to think of an alternative. Okay, if you don't want that person to destroy the environment, you have to think of a way to help the person not destroy the environment. You have to integrate the human being in this concept. Like, for example, if you go to someone and say, okay, if you don't cut down this tree, I'm going to give you some bees, I'm going to give you some hives, and if you cut the tree down, the bees will have nothing to eat, no flowers, to sack, and you will have no honey. So automatically, the person says, no tree, no honey. So I'm gonna work, for my bees. I will have, some source of income. I will make, some money, and I have to protect, the forest. So we have now a solar cooker. Are you familiar with solar cooker? It's a cooker using the sun. So it's a new cooker that we want to give to people who live in the forest, because as you know, many rural areas you have people living inside the forest and they depend on the wood, to survive. So with this solar cooker, because if you calculate, you will realize that we have almost 9 months of sun. So if we give a solar cooker to a family, and this family is going to use the solar cooker for 9 months, the forest will have enough time to breathe and to regenerate. So for 9 months, no wood. 3 months, if a family in a rural area cut down some trees that is not going to impact negatively on the wood forest. So this is a new project, and we presented it in the COP22, and it is going to be funded by the Moroccan government and also by the University of Oujda and some Spanish partners. So we are now going to really distribute some solar cooker to the rural areas. Yes. Every day we have a problem, but we have to deal with the problem. We have to really accept the problem, analyze the problem, and then try to find a solution. So,
which kind of problems?
Okay, like for example, if you go to Saudia, you have the beach. You have seen the beach. So normally, those cafes that are on the coast, they shouldn't have been there. It's against the law. You don't, because that's a public space. And in a public space, you are not allowed to really occupy a place to prevent you, for example, from using that space. And as you know, Morocco, in fact, just last year, Morocco was the only country in the world that had no coastal law. So our coast was not protected at all. People could do anything they wished to do because there was vacancy, judicial vacancy, no laws. But now this year we have a coastal law, and those cafes along the beach in Saudia, normally they should be removed from that in 2017, and we are going to see whether they are going to really respect the law or not. So when you have some wonderful sites here, some wonderful areas here, like for example Moulouya. Moulouya is one of the Ramsar sites in Morocco, because in Morocco we have about 25 places that are classified as Ramsar, and Ramsar, it's a convention. It's a convention that Morocco ratified in 1978. Convention that concerns the wetland, the Amakin al-Ratba. And if you go to Moulouya and you see birds there, a lot of birds. And for your own information, 2/3 of the bird population in Morocco are represented in Moulouya. So which means that Moulouya is one very, very important area in Morocco and on the Mediterranean coast. So these are just two examples of the problems we are facing daily.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your presence today. It's really an honor for us to meet you today. What you and your association are doing is really great, and we'd like to thank you again. So we all know what's happening right now and the situation of our environment, and we're all concerned. So my question is the following: how can we convince, illiterate people and make them aware of the real problems? Because we're living in a small city, and sometimes we can meet people that cannot understand what's really happening.
In Morocco, comes from literate people. I mean, if you take, for example, our government, so you have some very, very, highly educated people with PhD. So you have some ministers that really studied in America, and some in England, some in France. Very, very, highly educated people. And the problem, in fact, comes from them. Because why? Because they don't have a political will. And that's enemy number one When you have no political will, you are automatically going to impact negatively on the environment. So you have laws, and you don't apply the laws. You don't respect the laws. I'll give you an example. Last year, everybody was following the big problem of the garbage that came from Italy to be burned here, the boat that came to Morocco, and a lot of petitions, a lot of people who signed a lot of petitions and asking the government to really stop importing garbage from Europe and using it here as a source of energy. And then our highly educated people, our Minister of the Environment, came out on TV and said, oh, the garbage is not toxic, it's not dangerous. And before I became a minister, the government before me signed a convention, like the Bâle Convention, where like a lot of countries can really export their garbage to a third country to be recycled or to be burned. So she didn't know exactly, I'm sure, 100% that she didn't read the convention of Bâle. Because if she had read the convention, she would have really come across an annex. And in the annex you have the annex number 6. It's very conspicuous, very obvious. It says that all the countries that are not members of the International Organization of Commerce shouldn't export their garbage to another country that was not a member. Very clear, which means that Morocco is not a member in that organization, and Italy shouldn't have sent its garbage to Morocco. And Vanessa destroyed the forest that was there for thousands and thousands of years in 2 months. So you see, you have the government can destroy the environment in one click of an eye. Just 1 week. And the environment is gone. And people who live in the environment, it would take them thousands and thousands of years to really destroy all the environment. So here we have two forces. One is very strong and can destroy the environment in one night, and one is very weak and can live in the environment for thousands and thousands and thousands of years without really impacting it in a very negative way.
Hello, we're very thrilled to have you here in our school today. Thank you for this amazing presentation. It's really great for us to see that someone actually cares for the environment and see that he actually does something for it. Well, we all know that companies contribute in polluting our environment. So, do you think that the companies are less responsible now than they were in the past?
Yes, of course. When you think, there is no comparison at all. If you go back to just 20 years from now, you would realize that those companies were very small and they were not greedy. But now, the companies, they have a lot of technology and they are well equipped to really, have a lot of production growth in a very short time. And that is very, alarming. And a big company, you have heard, of climate change You have heard of the organization of COP22 in Marrakesh. They didn't talk about companies that really destroy the environment, that really are responsible for the environment. Give you an example. All the air companies, like you have Pan Airways, you have Air France, they didn't talk about them in Paris in COP21 and in Marrakesh COP22. And they are a big polluter. You have maritime companies, big polluters. You have agriculture. Agriculture also is one of the sources of gas, of emission of gases. You have methane, for example. So we have been talking about oxide, but you have other gases that really affect badly our environment. The agriculture, you are here in Berkane. The province of Berkane is an agricultural area. So it's like you are living under a big bomb, because the agriculture emits a lot of different gases. It affects the environment. It impacts badly the environment. Like cows, for example. So cows are a big source of gas emissions. And in COP21, COP22, they didn't talk about animals, because America and Europe are big countries that produce a lot of meat. They have a lot of cows, they have a lot of sheep, and they didn't want to talk about that, because they didn't want any resolution concerning the agriculture. The only way to really survive in agricultural environment is to produce biological products. It's biological agriculture where you don't need any fertilizers or any insecticides or herbicides. It's very natural, so that can really protect the soil, the earth. So these are the companies that are big monsters, climate monsters. Of course, yes, it's like they say, okay, we don't have to go above 2 degrees. It's like we have to limit our gas emission to 1.5. The problem is not to limit our gas emission to 1.5. If you go to zero gas emission, you still have a problem. Because what is really happening right now, like you have seen, for example, in many countries you have a lot of floods, you have a lot of drought, a lot of climate catastrophes. Our problem is above, it's in the air. So industry is not a newborn baby. Industry has been here for 200 or more years. And if you look at this space and 200 years of gas emission, then all our gas, in fact, in the sky, if you go to NASA, they have a website, NASA, and you want to have an idea what's really happening above our heads, you will understand. We have some tunnels of oxide, big tunnels, and they move. So when they move, they affect the environment. Either you have a lot of rain, you have floods, and you have big catastrophe, or you have big storms, big winds, or you have droughts because of those tunnels. So what people in Paris and also in Marrakesh were trying to do is trying to talk about, how to clean our atmosphere, because the problem is above. It's not here when you emit, gas. It's really talking like, Trump does not believe in climate change. And Trump, and if you have been following, what's really happening in America, you will quickly understand that the next American administration is totally against the environment. It's like the Minister of the Environment is an enemy of the environment in America, is considered to be the worst person that is really destroying the environment. Now he is going to be, is being assigned and appointed, as a Minister of the Environment by, Trump's team. If you protect the environment, automatically you are going to protect yourself, and you are going to protect your standard of living, and you will have quality more than quantity. So when we talk about, the environment, we are in fact talking about quality of life and not quantity of production. So if you believe in having a very, well protected and a very good quality of life, the only way to achieve that, the only way to get to that phase of life is to protect the environment. So, and many people say, if we don't use new technology, new chemicals, then the production is going to be lower, and we cannot feed the world. No, it's a big lie. It's one of the biggest lies in history, because America wastes a lot of food. So what an American can eat, that portion of food, 10 people from Africa can eat that portion. And if you go to America, you will be surprised. Sometimes people order food, but they never finish the food. They throw it away. Production, for example, they throw away milk. They throw away cereals. In France, for example, they dumped a lot of food in the sea, which means that, we have enough production for the whole world. That is just a lie and a way to, for the gullible people, for the naive people. So we have enough food to survive, even if we don't really use chemicals. If you go to the little islands, for example, in the Pacific. So it's funny, in Paris I met, someone from some islands in the Pacific, and the name of the island, the name of the island was Walou. Walou. And then I talked to him, I said, what is Walou? And he said, well, Walou means 8. 8. And I said, well, in Arabic, in my language, Walou means nothing. And he said, it's true. We were 8 islands, now we are 4. And I said, you are going to that phase of Walou. So because, most of the islands, were submerged by water. Because the sea level now is really rising. So it's like, ice is melting in the North Pole, and the water is really coming out. And some islands totally disappeared. And now, we're talking now about, ecological migrants. And these people do not have any place where to go. They are living now on boats. They are living on boats. They're trying to convince, like Australia and New Zealand, to really let them come to Australia, and Australia says no. And what they are doing, some rich islands are buying some land in Sri Lanka and also in India to buy land in case their islands, will disappear and they will have a place, where to live. So climate change is here. And they believe it, even those people who say, no, there is no climate change, but inside they know that there is climate change. They are protecting their interest, their financial interest. America, I understand them. So if you impose on them a new law, that means you are going to limit, their protection. And when you limit the production, you limit, the financial, income. So, but yes, we meet, some monkeys, and we always try, to deal with them, talk to them nicely, and we know that they are just bluffing, that they are lying to us, because in fact, inside, in their depth, they believe that climate change is here with us. And one very important thing that you have to know, climate change is not something new. Climate change is something very old. So, thousands and thousands of years ago, I give you an example. 12,000 years ago in Saidi, to go to the beach, you have to walk 6 kilometers to go to the beach. And 6,000 years ago, there was the rise of the sea level. And then the water went to Biljraf. So 6,000 years ago, the sea was in Biljraf. People, 6,000 ago, they used to swim in Biljraf. 3,000 years ago, another climate change. Then the sea receded. And it is now where it is. So climate change is not something very new. The problem is that anthropic, pressure on climate change. People accelerated that phase of climate change. Instead of really that the climate change would happen in certain time, let's say 2,000 years, now it happened in 300 years because of technology, because of our system of living, because of our production, because of our financial greed. We are very greedy. Even if we have enough to live, we always want more and more and more. In all the environment, the biodiversity, because the biodiversity is the first element that is going to totally disappear because of climate change. That's why Allah, asked the Prophet to take from each species two to protect biodiversity. Because if we lose biodiversity, we die. Our survival depends on our biodiversity. Okay.
Well, it is very pleasing to see a person from your own hometown who actually cares and works with bones in order to make a change. And despite you have faced various problems and obstacles, you have chosen the right way, although it was the hardest. So you have to be very proud of it, and we have to look forward to achieving. So the question I was wondering about is, how do individual decisions about number of children affect overall population numbers?
Because still remember, every Wednesday afternoon, all the students from my school would clean all their desks, clean the room, and go outside the courtyard to clean the courtyard and also take care, of the garden. So because we grew up, there was a system where the environment was part of education. So we learned how to protect the environment, how to respect the environment through our curriculum, through our educational system. And as an association, we have been really fighting to go back to the old times where the environment was so important in our system. So I think schools should integrate the environment, the concept of the environment in the school for children. Because if you teach a child, you win a man. It's like you are preparing a man for the future. A child is like a sponge. Anything you give him or her, it will stick into their little brain and will be saved, stored there for a long, long time. So of course, our educational system should integrate, environmental education in their curriculum. And I was very pleased, to learn, from your supervisor that you are collecting some money for the environment. So this is one step. And I encourage you to continue, because the environment is not one step. It's thousands and thousands of steps. So but that step can really change a lot. So I'm sure that the people who collected money, they will never, ever forget what they did today. They will remember it, forever. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, it will be here. And it will, of course, guide them in the right ecological path of conservation.
At last, we would like to thank you, Mr Bachiri, for giving us a bit of your time to us all of our amazingly motivational association that has done so much for the environment. We'll be very happy to have you again next year. We can't thank you enough for all your hard work, and as the quote goes, try to leave the earth a better place than when you arrived.